Just gone 7:30, so let's continue our focus of blackouts, currently stage 2, by the way, and how it's forcing energy-starved businesses and people to make a much swifter switch to renewable energy. The problem is the price points are still a major issue, and that is for those who are living in urban areas. What about rural maintenance? Well, that company is an energy company helping businesses keep the lights on. So Rural Maintenance CEO Chris Bosch making time to come all the way in to speak to us this morning. Hello to you, Chris. Thanks. Appreciate the time for coming in and talking to us. So how easy is this to get done at the moment? Because it's still very, very expensive, but people also know there's a demand. So here we are, supply, demand and cost.
Renewable is the way forward. It's not the holy grail, it's not the only answer, but it's definitely the first step in getting South Africa energy, get the energy flowing again in South Africa.
It's such a shame that we even have to have this discussion, because Eskom has been getting it wrong for so long, but it's, you know, born a new business just like yours as well. So give me a sense of who are you providing to as well. When we say business and municipal clients, who are you supplying to?
You see, anything that's new is a challenge in South Africa, and actually we're a family business, 32 years doing the same thing. You would think that we knew. We actually started in 1993 delivering services to township communities, and everybody at the time thought that the township customers don't want to pay. And we have a track record of 32 years that shows that even the poorest of the poor actually pay when they get a decent service. So we're very blessed in South Africa that we're sitting with a community and communities across our country which actually are happy to make payment for services that are delivered. All we now need to do is we need to assist to actually have the services delivered to our communities.
So essentially, I didn't realize you were around that long. So you were already doing this long before there were issues with Eskom. You've just managed to scale it up as well. I mean, that's what you're telling me.
Correct. Historically, it was a distribution issue, and currently it's still a distribution issue because the networks and all of that have not been maintained over so many years. And now we have the added component, which adds a level of complexity, which is the generation component, which is added now.
And why is that so much more of a complication as well? Because right now, any new nut that you add to the wheel, an extra spoke that you add, and just seems to slow this process down, doesn't it? There's so much red tape and bureaucracy from what I'm picking up.
That's exactly our problem, and that's why we're advocating that government needs to actually really mean when they say that private sector and communities need to be able to help themselves. Currently we hear it, but we don't see it on the ground. And actually, if you think about it, in the Constitution, Section 151 of the Constitution allows for a municipality to actually have wide discretionary powers. So if the municipalities are allowed and the councillors in the municipalities look after their communities, then they will make the right call, and then actually we have enough of the legislation in place for businesses and communities to assist their communities to actually become load shedding free in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I've heard this before. It's almost like the value chain is getting blocked downstream almost. All the ideas are there. The experts like you are there and willing. Communities are set up to try and go and support themselves from a power position, but it's being held up higher up the chain as well. So why do you think that could be the case? If it sounds so easy to do, where do you think the problem's coming in?
I think it's our problem comes in with our government that really is they're not sure of themselves. And by them not being sure of themselves, anything that may work which is not them, I think they're very concerned about.
The control thing?
Absolutely. And if we're sitting where we're sitting today, government should actually now trust their electorate. If government trusts their communities, I think it's going to be in their favour if they allow the communities to actually bring the solutions. That would show trust.
It's the trust. I was about to say that's the first thing, is the trust involved here as well. I understand that you were involved in the Mafube local municipality as well. There was work you were doing there. Have I got that right?
Yes.
Because it's a nice example of what can be replicated. It's almost, you know, just want to just copy and paste that just around the country, because it seems to work so well.
Correct. We're still involved in Mafube. And what we've done there is in 2012, when we started delivering services, we fixed the distribution infrastructure. So when the power crisis came, it was a lot easier to feed in renewable power into an operational grid. And the nicety of what we've done in Mafube, which can be replicated elsewhere in South Africa very quickly, is that we are generating electricity as a community project. We're generating it at source, which means we don't need Eskom's transmission infrastructure to bring the electricity there. The electricity is already at the load center.
Here's a concern. It's a last question. I think this might be an unfair question to throw at you at the end, because I'm about to say goodbye to you. I remember having a discussion with a few experts saying that the reason Eskom and power suppliers might have a problem with power generation at source is because Eskom needs money. And by doing that, Eskom's not going to make money by doing that. As effective as it is, that might be the problem for something like Eskom, but it makes sense for you. So where do you find the middle ground? Is there a middle ground?
It makes sense for the communities.
Of course.
Is it not now the opportunity where government and Eskom, which basically is government, needs to come to the conclusion? Either we have an economy in South Africa, which we may play a lesser role in, or we actually just have no economy at all. And this is where we are, and that's what the politicians have to actually get to an answer currently, of not cooperating and not allowing communities to bring their own solutions. Obviously, Eskom is losing, but what's the alternative?
Yeah, I'd say that citizens are losing at the moment.
Correct.
That's the big one. Chris, thank you very, very much for coming in to speak to us. Sounds like an incredible company. I didn't realize it'd been around so long. Chris Bosch, CEO of Rural Maintenance, has all been doing some fantastic work over the years and continuing to do so. But I love the way that it's got to do with community first, community-centered power at the source.